Hello, good morning. It's a beautiful day at Poldu Cove today. The sun is shining and we could do with some nice weather. It has been bitterly cold the last couple of days. We've actually turned our heating off because we rely on oil to provide heating and hot water and cooking in our home, and we are concerned about oil supplies getting through. So the last couple of days it's been several layers topped off with chunky jumpers and shawls. I'm hoping that as the day goes on and this sun shines, that it will warm the house up a little bit. We're not really living in this end of the house, we're in the other end of the house, and we're hunkered down in front of a wood burning stove, and we're so grateful that we have a good supply of wood here. What have I been up to? Well, yesterday I posted 2 videos, and the last video was a video taken from a workshop that's available online for Esther Benson. The video is available free of charge for you to watch whilst we are all in lockdown. We must make use of our time to be productive. The last thing that we want to do is sit at home and retreat into ourselves and become depressed and disheartened. This is just a period in our lives, and I'm sure that there are positive lessons to be learned from it. So, I think that with the power of the internet, that new friendships will be forged, online friendships, and maybe we will all find out a little bit more about ourselves. So let's go back to the videos. So I released 2 videos yesterday. I cooked. Now, just so that you can get to know a little bit more about me, I'm a good cook, I'm a good baker. I love doing breads and cakes and desserts and all sorts of preserves. But when my husband retired, I said to him that I was stopping cooking. And I don't mean if you were invited to supper or a dinner party at our home, I wouldn't cook for you. Yes, I most certainly would, and you would have a fabulous meal. But I didn't want to have the everyday chore of planning meals and cooking. So I tend to eat once a day, and normally I work through the day and sort of have a break around about 4 or 5 o'clock, and then I take Bertie for a walk, and whilst we're out walking we normally call in to a local place and have a spot of something to eat. And then I come home, carry on working, and then maybe I might have a bit of cheese and crackers or a little bit of fruit in the evening. So that's our normal routine, and my husband, who plays a lot of golf, tends to eat at the golf club. Now, being in isolation has changed all of that, and I am now cooking again, and cooking takes a lot of time out of the day. And also because we're sort of very conscious about our food, because we're isolating, we have got limited food supplies and we're having to use those supplies carefully. Food seems to be on our mind and we seem to be eating more. I think that probably I'm going to come out of this quite a bit heavier, but then I suppose we've all got to have something and you can always lose some weight at the end of it. So after I cooked, I settled down to stitch. I didn't seem to get a lot done because I was also on the internet as well, but you can see that I've added a few more of these gold coloured, and I'm going to say seed pods for now until I've liaised with Sandra to see what she thinks they are. And I've also started the inner cartouche, and to get my fixing point to stitch this, I stitched this little flower first, because that was a short distance to count back to a fixed point. I've got to this end, and before I started to stitch up, I checked I was the right distance from this fixed point, and I was. But I also ran out of steam at this time, so that's how much I achieved yesterday. I'm looking forward to settling back down with her. She is a very, very pretty sampler. Anyway, I hope tomorrow I'll have a little bit more to show you. Now, I did receive a message yesterday after my video querying about these side stretchers. Now, I normally use the short side stretchers. Those are my go-to stretchers, but I do use the medium stretchers as well. And I particularly use them when I'm designing and I want to have a large area on show, so I can see how colours are working and how they're balancing out with the overall design compared to the original. So I do use medium stretchers, and I'm sure that many embroiderers will have a use for the medium stretchers. If you were doing maybe a hardanger pattern, you might not want to roll your work, so the medium stretchers and the long stretchers will come in very, very useful for you. Now, if you are using a Needle Needs floor stand, their necessaire stand, and you use medium or the long side stretchers, you need longer support arms for your stand, just for you to know, because that's a question I get asked quite often. Now, in our self-isolation, we are having to change the way that we live. I think that for everybody, exercise is very, very important. We're blessed that we live in a remote spot so that we can go out and walk Bertie Boo and avoid people. But yesterday we were so shocked to look down in the cove onto the beach and see the beach cafe was open and people were queuing to have coffees, and I don't know for a fact, but I presume, you know, for some food as well. And there was no social distancing going on. And in the tables that are all outside that surround the beach cafe, people were sitting in very close proximity and spending time. That's not self-isolation, and that's not social distancing. When I took Bertie Boo out for a walk in the late afternoon, I didn't go down to the beach at our cove. I went up to the headland, and I went down to the beach where Paul Dark is filmed. And if I could see somebody coming towards me on the coast path, I actually stepped off the coast path into the scrubland and got a good 6 to 10 feet away from them, and I also put my scarf over my face. Now, a scarf is probably not going to protect you, but you know, you do have to take necessary steps. Also, in our papers yesterday, they were showing pictures of people in parks and in different open air spaces, and there were so many people in such close proximity. It's very, very concerning. We all really do have to listen to the advice of the experts about isolating and social distancing if we're going to stop this dreadful virus from spreading. Anyway, I don't want to be all about doom and gloom. Let's be about positives. We are shipping out every day that we can. We have to rely on the postman delivering mail here to take mail away from here, and we are using our porch. Now, a porch in the UK is not like a porch in the US. A porch is like a little annex that's added to the outside door of a house. So on our where our front door is, we have a little building the other side, and we are using that as a pickup point. So we put things out in that porch for people to pick up, and the postman and the couriers and anybody else leaves things in the porch for us to go and pick up, and we're leaving things there 5 days before we bring them into the house. It might be a bit extreme, but we are being careful. This is a very real risk for my husband. And last week a big box was delivered. It was a very big box, and I was thinking it can only be a sampler, but I can't remember buying a sampler that big. And I have been dying to open this box, and yesterday evening we brought it in. It had been in the porch for 5 days. So I opened the box and it was full of polystyrene peanuts, and I was looking in this box, and eventually I found what was inside, and it was a sampler, but it's not a huge sampler. This is the little sampler that came yesterday, and it was stitched by Maria Barker, and it was finished on April the 5th, 1830. It's a sweet little sampler. I was attracted to the sampler because of the coverage. I love a sampler when the little girls have been very industrious and, you know, crammed everything into their sampler that they could. I also really liked the two, I'm sorry about the reflection, the two little women here and the two little, well, they're slightly bigger women. I love the birds. I loved the little building there, which may be a dovecot, or it might be Solomon's Temple. I have to investigate that a little bit more. I like the peacocks, I love the trees. Oh gosh, I love so much about this sampler. And the more you look at any sampler, the more that you will see. So I'm looking forward to reproducing this at some time. I would very, very much like to take this out of the frame and have a look at the back, because I think the colours will be more exciting on the back. I think that as these are strawberries, that this was probably a lovely red at some stage that's faded into sort of a rusty pink almost. Be very interesting to see. So that's Maria Barker. And she will hopefully become a reproduction for Hands Across the Sea samplers. It's very funny, you buy these samplers with every intention of them being the next one you're going to reproduce, just as when you buy a chart, it's going to be the next one you stitch, and then something else comes along. There we are. The auction houses, they are stopping taking in lots, so I think auctions are going to be drying up, but you don't have to worry. I have a lot of antique samplers in my stash to reproduce, but it is concerning about supplies of linens and silks, like with Auvert Soie. The silks are dyed in Paris and then they're shipped out to the US to Access Commodities, who spool them and supply them to stores outside of Europe. France is being hit very, very bad with this virus, and although I have a relatively good supply of silks, it's not inexhaustible. So I hope that my silk supply lasts during this time, and I also hope that my linen supply lasts as well. Stash is so important. Thinking of stash, it makes you think about the supplies that stores have. Stores recently have extended themselves, buying releases at the Nashville needlework market and also stocking up on supplies to stitch those new releases. This could not have come at a worse time for stores that invested in that needlework market. and I would like all needleworkers to think long term. We want those stores to still exist when things get back to normal. So please support the stores. And don't just think of the big stores that have a strong online presence. There are so many wonderful needlework stores that do not have online stores. Try and spread your custom around the stores. Otherwise, when everything gets back to normal, there will be a lot fewer stores. Many stores around the world have had to shut to the public, but I am sure that their owners are still anxiously looking at their email boxes, hoping that there are going to be orders there, or maybe even some of them are able to answer their telephones. So yes, please, by all means, support stores that have online shops, but also think of all those other stores that really need your support. Gosh, that was heavy, but it is a concern of mine. We have to keep those stores going. We really do. So spread your custom. Is there anything else I want to say? Probably not for today, but I hope that you are all keeping your spirits up. Think about making good use of your time. Get some exercise, even if you haven't got a dog to go out and walk. Get some exercise in the house. Anyway, until the next time, stay safe, stay well, and bye-bye.